So I was just sitting there at my desk doing some homework on Tuesday, and I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and they were talking about the New York Knicks in the 2019 offseason, and I thought of this idea to talk about the perfect opportunity the Knicks could have had in this offseason. And that doesn't pertain to them signing any big names like a Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. This is another route they could have taken. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about them today because I thought I could definitely talk about this team for 20 or 30 minutes. And yeah, if you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I really appreciate that. Or if you're watching on YouTube to see my face while I talk. So yeah, we are here, episode 8 of the Just Ballin' podcast. We're going to be talking about the perfect opportunity the Knicks blew in the 2019 offseason. And it's not going to be what you think. I'm also going to be talking about what I think they could do going forward. And then we could do this for other teams too. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments what team we should maybe do next. Or if you're on Apple Podcasts, let me know in a review. Just be like, can you talk about the Hawks or the Magic or what you want to see them do in the future, or maybe something they should change up. So we're going to go back here to June 10th of the NBA Finals. It is Game 5. Kevin Durant is playing his first playoff game since early of the Houston Rockets series. And then he gets hurt. He gets the calf injury, and everybody is already talking about him missing a majority amount of time. There's speculation that he could be out all of 1920. This should have immediately came into the Knicks' minds. Okay, maybe this plan of getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, or Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis, or Kevin Durant and Kemba Walker isn't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Maybe it wasn't going to happen forever. Maybe this was never an ideal solution or proposition of the Knicks getting Kevin Durant. Maybe that was never going to happen. Let's say on June 10th, the Knicks actually became just, you know what, competent here that, okay, we're not going to get Kevin Durant, or there's a good chance he doesn't sign with us. He might opt in back into his Warriors deal, rehab there for a year, and then enter 2020 free agency. Kyrie Irving is already leaning towards Brooklyn. There was reports out of, I believe, a couple credible sources in April, in May, that Kyrie kind of wanted to go home, quote unquote, home to the Brooklyn Nets because, you know, he grew up as a Nets fan. He lived in New Jersey, and obviously the Nets used to play in New Jersey. And then Kawhi was just always speculated to go to one of the LA teams. I know the only Knicks-Kawhi connection was that the Kawhi's camp, when he requested a trade at San Antonio, the Knicks were one of his desired destinations to get traded to. So that was just maybe some speculation, but he was always leaning towards the Clippers or the Lakers. So it's June 10th, and that'll happen. So now the Knicks should have had a set-in-stone plan B here, which would have been plan A mainly. Going into this year's season, they had 6 guys under contract. Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., Damian Dotson, Mitchell Robinson, and a team option on Alonzo Trier, in which they picked up quickly into the start of the offseason. Now, those are 6 guys younger than 25, and 3 of them are former top 10 picks in Frank Ntilikina, DSJ from the 2017 draft, and Kevin Knox from the 2018 draft. Kevin Knox was coming off a pretty up and down, but mainly down rookie year. But you know what? The team was awful as it is, and he was a pretty bad defender, but hey, he was a rookie. He was thrown in, taking more than 15 shots a game as a rookie. He shot the ball, 12 and a half times as a rookie. He was 19 years old. He was 19. What are you doing at 19? It's like, you know what, he was in a pressured situation as a 19-year-old, so you really couldn't take that too much into consideration, that he was going to be like that for the rest of his career. Now, Frank Ntilikina was hurt mainly in his sophomore year, which sucked, and a lot of people were down on him. Dennis Smith Jr. did show a lot of promise after the Kristaps trade, or a little bit of promise. He had some good games, and he had a solid connection with Mitchell Robinson. Speaking of Mitchell Robinson, he was the steal of the 2018 draft, and he had a really good season as a second-round pick. Damian Dotson was kind of showing that he could be a solid rotational guy, maybe somebody playing like 10 to 15 minutes on a good team, and same thing with Alonzo Trier, who was an undrafted rookie. So the Knicks had 6 guys that immediately should be getting playing time going into the season. They should at least be 6 guys that are playing 10-plus minutes each. That's definitely what they should be doing. Now, there's a couple moves this offseason that I don't even know why the Knicks weren't even in talks in. So, the Clippers acquired Mo Harkless for free, and they got a future Miami first-round pick so Miami can clear the amount of cap space they needed to sign Jimmy Butler. Immediately, the Knicks should have been like, okay, let's go out there, let's acquire as many future assets as possible. Who cares if it's a 2026 first-round pick or if it's a 2021 first-round pick? Who cares? Let's go out and acquire as many assets as we can have. We'll take on all the bad contracts. You remember, this is how kind of the Nets build up their statue over the last couple years with getting D'Lo for free, basically giving up Brook Lopez, who was a solid player, but they took on the Mozgov contract. And yeah, that pick turned into Kyle Kuzma, but it was the 27th pick, and you're getting the 2015 second overall pick in D'Angelo Russell, who turned into a great player for them. Now, that could have been something. The Knicks could have gotten Mo Harkless, a solid defender who could have been maybe a mentor to Kevin Knox, because Kevin Knox needs defensive help. And he would have been not a ball stopper. He would have probably shot 7 shots a game, 6 shots a game. For the Knicks, he could have been a solid 3-point shooter, and then you maybe could have locked him up in the offseason. After that, you could have maybe gave him a 3-year deal worth $20 million, something like that, be a 3-and-D player off the bench for them. But no, the Clippers acquired Mo Harkless, and he's been a big part of their defense in their early 2019-20 success. Now, that was one trade they could have did. The next one was the Golden State Warriors trading Andre Iguodala and a first-round pick. Sorry, I said Iguodala like that. And a future first-round pick to the Grizzlies for free. The Grizzlies got Iggy and a future first for free. Now, maybe Iguodala maybe never would have played for the Knicks, like he's not playing for the Grizzlies, and you could have bought him out because that would have been a Knicks thing to do. Or you could have traded him for a second-round pick. Who cares? They got a first-round pick for free. That pick is most likely going to be like a 2024 top 4 protected, and then I think it's also top 4 protected in 2025, and then it goes to unprotected in 2026. Hey, that's another asset that the Grizzlies are going to have that the Knicks could have had, and took it on the Iguodala contract and then possibly moved them to a contending team like LA or Denver or the Lakers or one of the LA teams down the line. But who cares? You get another first-round pick. So now you would have had, on top of the Mavericks picks, a future Miami pick, which could be solid if Jimmy Butler maybe has a down year in a couple years when that pick comes into effect. Or you could have had the Warriors 2026 unprotected first or the 2024 top 4 protected first, which is another asset that the Knicks could have used. Now, also, another move that happened on draft night was the Suns trading the second pick in the second round, the 32nd overall pick, and TJ Warren to the Pacers for cash considerations. TJ Warren is 26 years old, and he's having a very good year for the Indiana Pacers. Over his last 6 games for the Pacers, he's averaging 22 points a night, 60% from the field, 63 from 3, and 83 from the line, and the Pacers have been winning with him. And they basically got him for free. Hey, Knicks, maybe getting a 26-year-old on a very solid contract instead of getting Marcus Morris, who is a ball stopper, who's taking the most shots on the team. Maybe, just maybe, that would have been a better idea. I'm just saying. Marcus Morris is 30 years old. He won't be back next year. And hey, if the Knicks can get a first-round pick from Utah or Portland or whoever maybe is interested in Marcus Morris come December 15th when he's eligible to be traded, okay. If you can get a late first for him, sure. But getting TJ Warren, who's 26, I think would have been a better addition. But no, the Knicks didn't even entertain any of these ideas. Also, speaking of the Grizzlies from before, they got 2 second-round picks from the Suns for just taking on Josh Jackson. Hey, Knicks, why didn't you maybe consider that? Throw Josh Jackson in the G League or maybe get him some playing time. You turned Noah Vonleh's kind of career around. Why can't you do the same for Josh Jackson? Speaking of Noah Vonleh, don't know why the Knicks didn't look to bring him back because they signed 4 new big men anyway, but neither one of them was Noah Vonleh. There's just continuity that comes into these things. So now we move on to the draft where the Knicks took Iggy Brzdakis and RJ Barrett, which were 2 fine picks. I don't think anybody was criticizing them on those 2 picks. Now, after that came June 30th free agency. Going into free agency, the Knicks would have had this rotation at the moment. Frank Ntilikina at point guard, Dennis Smith Jr. at point guard. 2 young point guards that you would like to develop and move on with, and that would have been perfect. Shooting guard, you had RJ Barrett, Damian Dotson, Alonzo Trier. RJ Barrett was going to be your starter. He's your franchise guy. And then you have Dotson and Trier who can each get 15 to 20 minutes off the bench. Kevin Knox, development year. You're still developing him. It's a sophomore year. He's obviously trying to improve off his rookie year. Iggy Brzdakis, he'll spend time in the G League, or he can maybe get the 12th man minutes on the roster. Power forward, you had no power forwards going into the season, and then center, you had Mitchell Robinson. Now, obviously, they could have had Andre Iguodala, they could have had Mo Harkless, they could have had TJ Warren, or they could have had Josh Jackson that they could have thrown into here, but they didn't. So now they have those guys going into the season. So they have 5, 6, 7, 8 guys on roster. We'll say Brzdakis was mainly going to be in the G League, so they have 7 dudes. Now, if they signed Noah Vonleh, that would, like I said, continuity. It would have been big to bring back Noah Vonleh, who got signed by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now he's not doing as good as he was doing in New York. Obviously, he played 25 minutes a game for the Knicks, and he's only playing 12 minutes a night for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's not shooting well at 3 whatsoever, and he was a 34% shooter on 2 attempts a game last year for the Knicks. So yeah, maybe he wasn't going to be as good, but he was 23 still. He's 24 now. And the Knicks could have brought him back to be the power forward. Really, is Bobby Portis that much of an upgrade over Noah Vonleh? No, he's not whatsoever. Noah Vonleh by the Minnesota Timberwolves got a $2 million deal. 1 year, $2 million. The Knicks couldn't offer Noah Vonleh 2 years, $6 million. 2 years, $8 million, and gave him a team option or put a team option. Because if he got $2 million a year for the Timberwolves, he would have taken $5 million a year, and you could have threw a team option on that second year. But the Knicks didn't do that. I don't know why. Arguably their best player last year, they didn't want to bring back. I don't get that. Okay, so now they ended up signing Bobby Portis, Julius Randle. Now, Julius Randle, I think, would be a fine signing still. If you have one ball stopper out there, who Julius Randle hasn't been good for the Knicks whatsoever this year. He's just been inefficient. He's just somebody that he thinks he can have the ball in his hands and honestly do something with it. He's averaging 17 points, 8.7 rebounds, but he's been inefficient. He's averaging 3.5 turnovers a night for a power forward. Yeah, I didn't say that wrong. 3.5 turnovers a night. I don't know why he tries to act like he's Draymond Green. I don't know why, or LeBron or Luka. He's just not good at it, and I think it's mainly on Fizdale, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Now, I would have been fine with the Randall signing still. Let's say you had Frank DSJ, RJ Dot, Trier, Knox. Let's just say they make the Mo Harkless trade. They don't get Iggy, they don't get TJ Warren, they don't get Josh Jackson, but let's say they get Mo Harkless. Now you have Frank DSJ, RJ Barrett, Damian Dotson, Alonzo Trier. At the forwards, you have Kevin Knox, Mo Harkless. You still don't even need to start Kevin Knox. You could have Mo Harkless start, play 20 or so minutes a night, have Kevin Knox play 27 minutes, but come off the bench. Power forward, you have Vonleh, Randall, and then center, Mitchell Robinson, and let's say they signed Taj Gibson. I still like that signing. He's a vet. He's good in his minutes. He doesn't have to play a lot of minutes. He doesn't shoot the ball a ton. He knows his role. Now, was Elfrid Payton a necessity signing? Wow, I butchered that. No, not at all. Was Bobby Portis a necessity signing? No, you could have brought Noah Vonleh back. Was Wayne Ellington a necessity signing? Not at all. If you watch Wayne Ellington when he's in the game for the Knicks, he has one role: come off screens, which the Knicks set horribly, and shoot a three. That's basically what he does, namely for the Knicks. If you look at his three-point rate, it's kind of crazy. His three-point rate is 87%, which means 87% of Wayne Ellington's shots are from three-pointers. So basically, that could have been Damian Dotson's role this year, who's actually a solid three-point shooter. But no, you wanted to sign Wayne Ellington, who is 32 years old and is shooting 30% from three. Damian Dotson is shooting 30% from three, but he's 25 years old. And he's only taking 3 attempts a night. Ellington's taking 4 attempts a night. It's just the little things like that. They could have actually built their young core and been rebuilding. Because they were going to be bad anyway if they did that. And hey, you know what? This year, they're not good either. The Knicks, at this current moment, are 4-17, which is a worse start this season than they were to last year. Last year, they ended up 17-65. And then, hey, if they were going to be bad this year anyway, why'd you sign Marcus Morris? Why'd you sign Wayne Ellington? I don't mind the Reggie Bullock signing, honestly, because Reggie Bullock is still fairly young. He's in his 20s at the moment. I would just actually like to clarify that before I say, or before I guess on his age, and he's not right. But he's going to be out till, I think, January anyway. He's 28 years old, so at least he's before 30. He'll be 29 soon. He most likely won't be back next year. He's going to be reevaluated soon. Ian Bagley of SNY reported. Yeah, okay, but then why'd you sign Wayne Ellington? There's stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to move on from the free agency signings because it really frustrates me talking about that. So now we can talk about where the Knicks can go going forward. Now, also guys like Kadeem Allen and Kenny Wooden are solid players that they could have brought up too as well to have more depth. Instead of like signing Marcus Morris and Elfrid Payton. But yeah, we're going to move on from free agency. So yeah, that's the Knicks' perfect opportunity that I think that they blew in the 2019 offseason. And yeah, they didn't have to sign one of these top guys to continue their rebuild. Obviously, they could have acquired assets, acquired these young players that could have potential to be solid rotational guys on a good team. But no, they didn't do that. They signed a bunch of guys that don't fit together. Now, let's talk about how the Knicks can go forward. Let's get a little bit more positive here. So obviously, coaching is a big part of a team, right? Now, I don't think that David Fizdale is the right coach for this team now. Do I think David Fizdale's a bad coach? Not necessarily. I don't think he's a good coach either, or at least he hasn't proven that he's a good coach. Now, if you watch the Knicks rotations every night, they're pretty poor. If you really look around at how their offense flows, it's a lot of ISO ball, which is really cop-out as a coach if you're really just saying, oh, ISO, or you're calling it isolation. That's not really a huge thought process. We can all tell Kevin Durant to isolate and have floor spacing to where he's really only getting guarded by one guy. You could say that for Marcus Morris or Julius Randle. It's not really that impressive as a head coach. If you watch his late game plays, not very good. If you watch his out of the timeout plays, not very good. Now, I don't really know if any of the Knicks assistant coaches like Keith Smart or Royal Ivory or Caleb Canales or Jude Bouchler or Mike Miller, who I think, or Pat Sullivan, I think the latter two have had talks about being the coach if Fizdale is fired for the remainder of the year. I don't think any of those guys are the answers. But if you watch, like I know you guys are fans of other teams, if you watch Mike Malone of the Nuggets or Nick Nurse of the Raptors or Quinn Snyder of the Jazz, these aren't like the elite coaches. Like they're not the Spoelstras or the Stevens or the Popoviches of the world, but they're good coaches. They're coaches that you would want on your team. If you watch their rotations, they're really good. And if you even watch like Spoelstra's rotations, who's an elite coach, they're incredible. Like the Heat should not be this good if you look at their roster. They shouldn't. But good coaching can go a long way. Now, I don't really know who the next Knicks head coach could be. Like, I don't really know if you want Jeff Van Gundy or do you want Mark Jackson. I don't think you do. Mike Budenholzer was a free agent the same time Fizdale was, but they ended up going with Fizdale. I don't really know. Do you want Dave Yorger? I don't know who will be fired after this year. Scott Brooks. I don't really think you want any of these guys. No. So you might have to go in-house here. Do you think Keith Smart? Or Kenny the Jet Smith from TNT, I know had some speculation. I don't know if you want any of these guys. I honestly don't know much about coaching or just coaching prestige, so I'm not really going to put my 2 cents in there, but I think a coaching change should happen. I also think a front office change should happen. I always backed up Scott Perry. I liked him and Steve Mills as drafting, but I don't think they know how to build a contender. I think they should both go. If you want to keep Scott Perry, okay, that's fine, but Steve Mills has to go and James Dolan has to realize that. Now, the Knicks, they've been rumored to Masai Ujiri. They've been rumored or speculated with Sam Presti. If you sit them down and be like, I'll give you guys full control, you'll get $10 million a year. Just please build us a winning team. Maybe they'll consider it. Maybe. But I don't really know the odds are of that happening. So I think new front office structure, a new head coach should happen. If you want to fire Fizdale midway through the year, take Mike Miller, Pat Sullivan. It's not the Mike Miller you're thinking of that played for the Heat. Different Mike Miller, Pat Sullivan, Mike Miller, Keith Smart, Royal Ivy. Take one of them, make them the head coach, see if they can actually be a good head coach, kind of like how Mike Woodson was for the Knicks. And then if they're not, go out of free agency and sign a coach to a 1-2 year deal. But stop signing these coaches to 4-year deals and start firing them after 2 years. Because you're going to have to do it every time if you're not really building the competent front office. And that's where Phils and Perry need to go. They need Mills and Perry, they need to be fired. So let's talk about where they can go going forward, player personnel-wise. Now, Marcus Morris, I think they should 100% trade him at the deadline, either for it's a protected first-round pick, lottery protected. Hey, if you can get the 25th overall pick for Marcus Morris, I think that's a plus. If you can't get a first, I think you still got to accept 2 seconds. There's no reason for Marcus Morris. Did I say Marcus Smart? I hope not. There's no reason for Marcus Morris to be on this team post-trade deadline. There isn't. You need Kevin Knox to get his reps. You need Trier, Dotson, RJ Barrett to get majority of the shots after Julius Randle. If you can move Wayne Ellington, cool. If you can move Bobby Portis, cool. But Knicks fans are going to say trade Randle. They're not trading Randle. Nobody wants Randle on his contract. He's going to be here next year anyway, so be it. Now, you develop your young guys. You're going to have a top 5 pick in the draft. The Knicks at this current moment have the second worst record in the NBA. The only team in front of them are the Warriors. They have 2 more losses. So I'm on Tankathon right now. Let's say I'm going to simulate the lottery, and the Knicks are going to go from 2 to 6. So that's the worst possible scenario. I just did a simulation. So now they have the 6th pick in the NBA draft. And let's see guys that they can maybe target from maybe that 3 to 6 range that they could fall. Or we'll say 4 to 6. Let's just say we'll play it safe that the Knicks won't get a top 3 pick, and they'll go 4 to 6. They could look at point guards. It's a loaded point guard class with Cole Anthony, LaMelo Ball, Nico Mannion, RJ Hampton, Tyrese Maxey, Theo Maledon. Those are guys that definitely could be drafted as point guards. But do you think Frank Ntilikina is the future point guard on this team, or do you think he's the future wing player who can handle the ball but isn't really much of a facilitator and can be just more of a defensive specialist 3-and-D guy? That's his peak. Do you think Dennis Smith Jr. is the future point guard of this team? No. I think that the Knicks really would benefit from a LaMelo Ball or a Cole Anthony. Now, James Wiseman is arguably the best player in this draft, but he's a center, and I still think Mitchell Robinson is your future center of this team. Now, there isn't really that many good power forwards. There is Jaden McDaniels, excuse me. Not Jalen. Jalen was drafted in the second round from San Diego State last year. But this is Jaden McDaniels. He's a small forward / power forward from Washington. You have I'm going to butcher his name. Onyeka Okongwu. I'm sorry. I know who he is, but I just butcher his name a lot. He's a power forward from USC. He's a freshman. He's going to be 19 when he gets drafted. Isaiah Stewart, he's a really good power forward so far at Washington. So yeah, Washington has a couple guys. I definitely recommend watching them. They're in the Pac-12. Veteran Carey Jr. style, but now you're getting into like guys that probably shouldn't go in the top 6. Denny Avida from Israel. Could be a solid wing player as well, or Anthony Edwards. Now, I think maybe Anthony Edwards, 6'4", Denny is 6'9". He's more of a 3, but then you're kind of banking, or now you're kind of saying that Kevin Knox isn't the future of this team, which is okay. And if you want one of these guys to roll with RJ Barrett, sure. But I think, honestly, the most perfect guy for this team, I think, is LaMelo Ball. He's playing better competition than probably any of these college guys, and he's definitely probably the best passer here, I'd say. On this list, I definitely think he's probably, him and Nico Mannion are the 2 best facilitators, and then probably Theo Maledon, number 3. Definitely probably better than Cole Anthony. I think those are your more perfect guys. Set up Julius Randle, let them control this offense, set up RJ Barrett, set up Kevin Knox. I think that's your best bet going forward. So let's say the Knicks don't get LaMelo Ball. Let's say they end up with Nico Mannion, right? Freshman out of Arizona, 6'3". He's averaging 19 points and 7 assists out of the Pac-12 this year. Let's say you end up with Nico Mannion. Now you have Nico Mannion, either DSJ or Frank, and let's say maybe they move DSJ on draft night for like a late first, early second, probably an early second. So let's say you have Frank Ntilikina and Nico Mannion. You have RJ Barrett. Maybe you bring back Damian Dotson. Maybe you pick up the option on, let's say, Reggie Bullock. At small forward, you have Kevin Knox, Iggy Brzdakis. Power forward, you have Randall, and I don't think they'll pick up the option on Bobby Portis. I think they could pick up it on Gibson, and then you have Gibson and Robinson. Now, free agency isn't good for 2020. There's a couple big free agent names, but it's like DeMar DeRozan and Andre Drummond, and those aren't guys that fit the Knicks timestamp or their process and their rebuild. So you're looking at guys. The best, obviously, young free agent is Brandon Ingram, but he's been playing incredible this year. So you'd expect the Pelicans to match his salary sheet or his offer sheet. Now, the only way I could see the Pelicans not bringing back Brandon Ingram is when Zion comes back and they just don't work well on the court together. Just maybe Zion will not succeed with Brandon Ingram, just spacing. I don't know what it is. Or vice versa, Brandon Ingram will just not succeed with Zion on the court with him. So then you could maybe think or see the front office, David Griffin, Trajan Langdon, being like, okay, we're obviously going to choose Zion over Brandon Ingram. We'll let him walk, or we'll do a sign and trade, kind of like how Malcolm Brogdon was this last offseason. The Knicks give up maybe one of the Mavericks picks, and they pick up Brandon Ingram. That could be something. I mean, that's not a terrible idea, but do you really want Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram on the same team? Don't really know how spacing will go with that, but then you're kind of imagining, okay, Randall won't be here next year. Maybe the new head coach can actually have Randall be good in his skill set and not making him a more ball-dominant player, because Randall doesn't need 14 shots a game. Julius Randle is also taking a whopping 3.5 threes a game, and he's shooting 25%. No, just stop. Randall should not be taking more than 2 threes a game. He should honestly be taking more than 1 3 a game. He shouldn't have the ball more than he has. Like, his usage shouldn't be the highest on the team at 26%. It shouldn't be whatsoever going forward. So let's just say the Knicks, Nico Mannion, Brandon Ingram is a long shot you getting him in the offseason, so I'm not really going to imagine them getting him. You could look at other young guys like Malik Beasley. I don't really know what you could turn him into. But yeah, you're probably just going to be bad again next year, and maybe you can get like an Amani Bates. Actually, is Bates? No, Bates is even next year. I think it's the year after. So you can maybe look at like a Cade Cunningham, but that's another point guard. You can look at a Jalen Johnson from Duke, somebody like that, or Jalen Green. So yeah, it's gonna be bad for the next 2 years. For the Knicks, I've actually moved kind of out of my Knicks fandom. I was always a super biased Knicks fan, I would say, until last year. And then I'm kind of looking at the NBA more of as just like a non-biased aspect. And I want the Knicks to do good. I'll always be a Knicks fan deep down. But I want to see them do good. But I'm going to point out their flaws, and they have many of them. And I just think their front office blew a perfect opportunity in the 2019 offseason. And they can still go up from here. But I don't think it's going to be with this current regime. I think you need a smart mind as your president of basketball operations or your general manager. Either it's a Masai Ujiri, a Sam Presti, or somebody else that's in some other team's front office that you can look at. Maybe you can look at like Arturas Karnisovas in Denver, Tim Connolly, somebody like that. I don't know. Or like another top executive. And then for coach, you could look at some of the free agent coaches. You could look in-house, or you can maybe look at team's assistant coaches, like maybe Becky Hammon of the San Antonio Spurs. The Knicks, I think, are one of the only front offices with 3 minorities, or at their top executive, general manager, and head coach. So maybe you could look as the first female head coach. I'll boast well with PR. And maybe Becky Hammon actually knows more than David Fizdale. Or just other assistant coaches you can look at on good teams. Maybe somebody on like the Raptors or the Lakers, or maybe you could look at Tyronn Lue or somebody like that. Who knows? But yeah, I just talked about the Knicks for like 20 or so minutes. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments kind of what you guys thought on my thoughts about how the Knicks blew that perfect opportunity in the offseason to gain more assets and go from there. And then also let me know what you guys think of maybe them targeting in the draft or free agency, and then also trading if they should move Ellington, Portis, Marcus Morris. Obviously, Marcus Morris will be the easier one to move. And then also, let me know what other teams you guys want me to talk about. I'm definitely down to do more of these, but talk about maybe 2 teams for a video or 3 teams or something like that. Kind of more rebuilding teams will be more fun. Maybe like the Hawks. They definitely have some promising young players, and then definitely a better future than probably the Knicks at the current moment, but they're not doing that well at the moment either. Maybe talking about Cleveland, the Grizzlies, the Wizards, other teams like that, Spurs or Pistons who are in purgatory, or Chicago who are at a crossroads, or Charlotte or OKC, somebody like that. So yeah, just let me know with like maybe a review on Apple Pod or the comment section on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you. Just follow me on there. If you can leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Pod, I'd really appreciate that. Or just a like and a comment on my SROS YouTube page. So yeah, that's going to be for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't ramble a lot. I hope I kind of informed you guys and maybe give you guys a better perspective outlook on how the Knicks offseason could have went. It didn't have to be with Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. It definitely could have been a successful offseason in another route. So yeah, that is going to be for me. Hope you guys have a great day. And I'll see you guys in episode 9. Peace, y'all.